so many different paths of life and so many different things all happening at the same time, that are almost contradictory to each other, that it's it's daunting, and it sucks that we're in this weird age where everybody's right and everybody's wrong.
Mhm.
It's so confusing, and it makes it pretty hard to carry on, with any type of confidence. you know if,
Exactly.
if if anybody's confident in anything, they're delusional, and if anybody's not confident, then it's just because they don't have the willpower or the work ethic or something, and it's just like there's no middle ground anymore, and it's pretty terrible, I think. And just everything that we're talking about, because my focus in life right now, and I think it's my passion, because it's always ringing, but like fitness, it's always, there's so many different camps of like, you have to do this many reps, you have to work out this long, you can't do cardio, you can do cardio, you should
Yeah.
do CrossFit, no, you should specialize. Like, it's just, there's so many different things, and people screaming, you're wrong, I'm right, or they're wrong, he's right. Like, it's just, I don't know where it's headed, honestly. It seems like there's too much going on for the human uh mind right now, and it's got to come
Mhm.
to some type of point, it's got to come to a
Yeah.
head.
There's too
So
much knowledge with so little wisdom.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then what was I gonna say? I was gonna say something in response to the other part of that.
What was the other part?
It was what you were talking about just previously. It just before the whole what I had just added in regards to that. I'm having a brain fire in regards to it again. um, God, what was it?
I was just saying about the camps, and
Oh yeah. Okay, so sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off like that.
no
Um,
problem.
but yeah, okay, so yeah, it's a term that I really love to use, which is so perfect. It's so perfect what you were just talking about and the truth of it. Anarchic truth. That's a term that was created by one of the very first female philosophers in our history. I don't remember her name, but she lived and existed the same time during Plato, Socrates, Aristotle. But because she was a woman, she was overlooked in history, which was kind of a shame. But
Mhm.
she actually presented a counter argument against Plato because Plato and the rest of them were saying that there were only one set of universal truths. But she said an anarchic truth is basically that there are an infinite number of truths that can exist at the same time. So like with fitness, for example, how yes, it's true that one camp can work for another person, but it's also true that this camp can work for another person. And that honestly, it could apply to almost every single type of real world issue, whether it's like immigration, healthcare, government reform. It really just kind of applies to everything. And it's like the way that I say it for myself is I'm an amalgamation of hypocritical truths because there's so many conflicting truths that do not go well together, but it doesn't mean that those truths don't exist. And
Mhm.
so it's trying to find the balance of which is going to be the better choice. And using common sense and logic and rationalism is how I use to be able to disseminate which is the most ideal truth and things like that.
Yeah, no, and I don't know. That's pretty sick that you brought that up, because I've been like wondering if I myself am an anarchist or not. But yeah, no, I totally agree with that, and it's just, I don't know. It's hard to refute, I think, and it it lends to a more chill, I think, and kind of free living vibe or outlook on the world, which I think some people just can't handle. Like, there has to be structure, there has to be
Yeah,
like a grid pattern, and everything has to fit into its square, which
it's
is
all a
fine.
part of the plan.
Yeah, it's fine, and like, at this point, I'm just, thinking they can go live how they want to live. If that's how they want to interpret the world, that's on them. They
Mhm.
can take their pros and their cons and go to the bank with them and see how much they get back. Um, I'm happy where I'm at, you know. It's just it's real groovy, man. You know, let's just go
It's
with the
groovy,
flow, you know, bro.
man.
So yeah. Um, no, I think that's super cool, and I'm also sad that she was a female and she got overlooked in history because I think that we need a little bit of anarchist.
The
I don't know if that's
anarchic truth.
anarchic truth. Yeah, that's not a word. Or anarchist. Yeah, some anarchic truth is I think what we need right now because we're not seeing anybody else's point of view anymore and all that stuff.
Yeah, and there's no room for conversation, and it's a real shame, especially because some of the biggest issues that we have right now, especially in America, nothing applies more perfectly than anarchic truth. So, like for example,
Yeah.
um, and this is going to be I say this objectively, so I don't have a subjective opinion in regards to this, but it's an example like immigration. That's a very good example of an anarchic truth because obviously we don't want to just let everybody in because like the Pareto principle, it implies that like 20% of criminals commits 80% of crimes and stuff like that. And so there's always going to be a very small percentage of people that are coming through the borders, immigrant that are immigrating, that are genuinely bad people, and it ruins it for the rest of everybody. But also, it's true at the same time that we need to fix our immigration system because there's some people that it takes upwards of 10 years just to get approved and just to become a citizen. And a good historical example that I use as well to substantiate that objective point with anarchic truth is that in regards to just letting anybody in during the prohibition when the mafia was at its greatest rise in the early 1900s, what they would do as a means to prop up their businesses, to enforce people to do their all these dirty jobs, they would import Italian immigrants from Italy, and they would smuggle them in through the Canadian border. And the actual term for these immigrants, illegal immigrants, were zips. And historically speaking, the mafia would smuggle in these illegal immigrants, and they would use them as either enforcers, as drug mules, or fronts for their businesses. And these people were pretty ruthless. Like the mafia, Al Capone, whoever else, they would tell the zips, the immigrants that they would have imported in, they would tell them, "Go kill this guy, go rob this person." They would quietly do that. They would murder, torture, rape, all that stuff. And I'm not implying that over everything as well, but that's an example of an anarchic truth to where yes, we got to be able to let people in and we need to fix our system to allow people to come in, but we can't just sit back and say that there's no bad people, period, if that makes
No, yeah.
sense.
Yeah, no, there's going to be pros and cons to everything. And I think the whichever camp you're in just depends on these days, just
Hmm.
depends on if you ignore all the pros or if you ignore all the cons, you know, because that's always how those debates go down. It's like
Hmm.
somebody says a truth, whichever side it supports, if it's a pro side or a con side,
Hmm.
they say a truth and then the other person just ignores it. They don't hear it, they don't respond to it, they don't take it on board at all. And then
Yeah.
the other person says a truth and then this person ignores that. And it's just two people barking
Yeah.
truths, two sides of the same coin at each other, or acting like they're not part of the same, fabric. And
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's a little unfortunate, but I also wish to say stay objective. But
Yeah.
I agree with most of what you're saying. So um yeah, it's just gonna happen. I wouldn't personally mind if it was just open borders and we dealt with it as it happened, but there would
Right.
obviously be some negative consequences with that. So yeah.
Right. And that's where the debate, that's where the conversation comes into play. Cause like I accept wholeheartedly that I could be 100% wrong on everything that I discuss. And humility, I feel, is something that's needed more in society, but that's something I hold myself to a standard because I mean, I try my best not to judge, but there's still times that I judge and whatnot. I try my best to be the most utmost accurate, truthful, and right, but sometimes I'm wrong, and it's what it is. And like for example, this my what I just said specifically, objectively, the best I can in regards to like immigration and using the mafia and the prohibition as an example. I could be entirely wrong on that. And that's perfectly okay. And the only way to be able to figure that out is to be able to have that positive, constructive conversation to kind of disseminate the difference between what is fact and fiction. And the lacking of humility is what's especially leading to that, where it's just two people bickering nonstop, and then they're just ignoring each side. And yeah, it's really unfortunate the fact that it's continuing more in today's standard, especially because we have so much access to information that we could easily, very, very easily pull up. Well, actually, this actually happened, or like, actually, this evidence suggests that historically speaking, the data is off by like 0.3%, like stuff like that. There's always going to be something like that. And, it is what it is. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's just to be able to disseminate that information, to be able to have a healthier resolution to it, like in regards to like the open borders and immigration, it's we got to have the conversation in order for that to work. And then obviously in layman terms, we got to look at the reality of the situation and stuff like that. But yeah, but it's like one of my life goals that I set for myself, which is always something, the point of it is to always motivate me, is that I want to learn everything. Plain and simple. I quite literally want to learn everything, but I understand at the same time that's physically impossible. And I understand at the same time I could be completely wrong on everything. But how am I gonna find out if I'm wrong if I'm just trapping myself with my own echo within my own echo chamber, if that makes sense?
Yeah. I mean, what is wrong and right, And I don't know. I've been having this conversation a lot just within the past couple, last maybe just the past week, as there are some developments in the military. Uh, but not to bring that up, but
Yeah, no worries.
I think that the only reason that we can be like this in our society right now is because of how good times are. Like, and we brought it back. We brought it up last time, I believe, but just it's such a good time right now that the highest point of contention is small things like this, things that aren't necessarily make or break, things that aren't necessarily do or die. They're just little preferences like what would you like? What would you like? Oh, you guys disagree. I don't know. Like, can we meet in the middle? Like it's things like that. It's not the fate of the country, it's not the fate of the world, it's not the fate of it's people. Like, it's just these little things that are easily disagreed upon. And I don't know. I think we're in the transition right now with that saying of good times make
Mhm.
weak men make hard times, and hard times make good men. I think we're about to go into hard times pretty soon within the next decade.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty interested to see where it goes. And I'd like to try to stay as good of a man as I can
Yeah.
so the hard times don't have to do it to me.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like my mentality is that, I could be trying to find the right word for it. If at the end of the day, um, like this is going to be like an existential thought, but if at the end of my life and on my day of judgment I end up like going to hell or whatever, whether it's because the actions in real life or just the sin within my own heart or the vices that I carry, I'm okay with my fate so long as I spend my life and my livelihood trying to be a good man. I truthfully believe that I am a good man, and I will spend my life focusing on that.